Hi guys, what's up? Today we're gonna work on something. What is that thing? We don't know yet. But before, I gotta say hi to all my students from 7EA. I love you all. 7EA Sports to the game. What we talking about today? Will be our first class about. So this is an eighth grade in the Cambridge curriculum. So. And here we're gonna work on 1.1, section 1.1. Okay, that's it. But before we start, let's um let's talk about little things like numbers, right? Mathematics, we first talk about the numbers. Instead of talking about the numbers, let's go back a little, very little, and remember the time that we were living in caves. Okay, they were cavemen and cavewomen, and once upon a time, they were living in some caves, and there were some people living there with hands, right? So something like that, and they had eyes and stuff. So what did they do? They were going out, and looking for stuff, right? And they were having apples, for example. They were having apples and things. And someday, they were getting one apple every day, and they were keeping the doctors away. So then what happened that someday some guy saw that they were one apple here and one apple here. Okay. So he had to explain his friend how many apples he had. And he had no word for it, right? And he was like, yo, I have one apple and I have another one apple. And his friend was like, well, I have one apple and I have another one apple and I have another one apple. And one day they got bored of saying one apple, one apple, one apple, another one apple, another one apple. And they were like, what if we make words for that kind of things? If you have one apple and another one apple, let's call it two apples. And the other guy was like, that makes sense. And then if you have another one apple here, then let's call all together as three apples. If I have another one, let's call all together as four apples. Okay. So they came up with numbers, right? And the guy was like, the number, because the word number was a new thing for the guys. And the guy was number of apples. If I have one apple, I can also show it with my finger. If I have two apples, again, so I have two fingers as well, right? I can show it like this, three apples, four apples. He was like, okay, I can touch each apples with my fingers. So the number of apples is the same with number of fingers I have up. Okay. So they can go up to maybe 20 apples, but no, they can go up to only 10 apples because they had only 10 fingers, right? Then they were like, what if I have 10 apples and then one more apple, right? And they were like, let's call it 10 and 1. It doesn't look nice. Let's call it just 11, right? And then they were like, okay, if I call it 11 and I already came up with some signs for those numbers, right? Some guy were like, okay, let's show one apple as this because it just looks like one apple. And for two apples, let's make a different sign for that. Three apples, let's make a different sign, different signs. And then they went up to, and also there is a case when you have no apple, right? They went up to nine apples, but they are already out of their fingers, right? With zero because they have 10 fingers and they have now 10 signs. So they are out of fingers now. So when they have to sign 10 apple, they were like, okay, I don't have no more sign, okay? No more sign to show what 10 looks like when I have to write it, right? Because they were not stupid. They were cavemen, but they were not stupid. They knew how to write, right? We all know that people found writing when they were living in the caves, right? Um, then the guy was like, what if I have 10 apples and now I am out of signs? Should I make another sign for number 10, something like this? And the other guy was like, no, man, that's very complex. Let's use these signs to show 10. Um, and the other guy like, how the hell we gonna use it? And he says that, to show 10, let's just use one to represent that it's something with 10. And 0, if we say it's 10. And if we say 11, 11 was what? 10 and 1. 12 was what? 10 and 2. 10 and 3, which was 13. So this is how they came up with numbers. Okay. That was pretty nice, right? Good people. Very good people. Bye bye. Get the hell out of here now.